Hey y'all, Katie here with Team EvoAZ, and welcome to the Arizona Monthly Market Housing Update with Matt and Katie, where you learn all about the greater Phoenix area housing market, including information on interest rates, what's happening with housing prices, and tips and tricks for buyers and sellers. Please like, subscribe, and download our episode so that we can continue to get this real news out to the real people.
Hey everybody, it's Katie and not Matt, because Matt is not here with us for this episode. He is out today, unfortunately, but that's okay because typically he's here with us. And if you've followed us at all, or if you know who we are that married couple talking a lot about real estate and a little bit about life. Based here in the Phoenix, Arizona area, this is our monthly housing market update specifically for Phoenix metro area. Please give us a like and a follow. We are at Team EvoAZ. That is our handle on social media, especially YouTube. If you are listening to your favorite podcast platform right now and you are listening to just the audio version, please do us a favor, subscribe and like us so that we can get this news out to the real people. And then again, if YouTube is really where we shine, guys. We love the video version along with the audio version. So if you're a video type, at Team EvoAZ is our handle over on YouTube. As always, we have the amazing Ryan Gilliam with Waterstone Mortgage with us today. Hello, Ryan.
Hi, everyone. Hello, Katie. Great to be here. Hello, Matt, in spirit, of course.
In spirit, yeah. He'll be catching the replay later, I'm sure. How are you today? How's your month been?
Doing great, doing good. It's been a roller coaster month, I'll tell you. September, one of our experts that we listen to that talks about mortgage rates, he played a good song. You know, the Green Day song, Wake Me Up When September Ends.
Yes.
That was kind of a fitting song, I think, for the mortgage business. And yeah, we could talk about why that is. And it's really because of what's happening with interest rates right now. So it's been a busy, really, 2 weeks, last 2 weeks of the month, because last week, the big headline was that the Federal Reserve increased their federal funds rate by 0.75%, 3/4. Now, this was expected, you know, but the market kind of had an inverse reaction to it. So if you're new to the podcast, you know, I know we've mentioned this before, the funds rate affects lines of credit, you know, HELOCs, personal loans, you know, other loans like that, like your car loans. So when you factor that in, really what they're trying to do is lower inflation. And inflation, when that's high, mortgage rates are high. So usually when we see that the Fed is increasing their funds rate and getting really strict on lowering inflation, that's a good thing for mortgage rates. So we were expecting last week when they made that announcement for mortgage rates to drop, but they actually took a big jump. And the reason why is because they're meeting afterwards. What the Federal Reserve was saying was that inflation is a little stickier than they thought it was going to be, that it's taking a little more work to lower it to the key levels that they want it to be. So we're kind of going to be seeing more increases maybe into next year, which wasn't expected. So because of that, you know, you saw maybe the stock market has been going down, the market really reacted negatively to that. And mortgage rates went up because we feel like if inflation is going to be here longer, higher rates will be here longer. So it wasn't very good news last week. And mortgage rates are really hovering around a high 6 range for conventional. And we haven't seen that in about a decade. So we are seeing higher levels right now. But so we do feel maybe by November or December, when some of those inflation numbers start coming in and they come in lower, that's going to finally trigger rates to maybe start dropping. So that's what we're holding out for. But it could be still higher rates for September and October as well.
Are you feeling it in new applications? How's that going?
Yes, yeah, you know, we are definitely seeing a little less demand. You know, out there, there's fear. There's a lot of negative news reports talking about prices going down, and I think a lot of people are on the fence, you know, because they're afraid they're going to get in before price drops, or you know, affordability is kind of an issue. But the people who do see this as an opportunity, that you know, there's more inventory out there. There's less demand, so it's a great time to get in and you know, try to get a competitive price. You know, maybe get some concessions to help closing costs. Maybe you know, get a price reduction on the list price and get a good deal. So the people that we're working with who see that are choosing other financing options to keep their payments low. And one of those is a 5-year ARM, which stands for adjustable rate mortgage.
It's
And
been a minute since we've seen those.
it has been. Yeah, you remember, Katie. And 2006, 7, and 8, those were pretty popular because rates were a little high at that point too. And it was a great way to get a more competitive interest rate. So of course it was a different market back then, and we did see a crash. There was a lot of separate factors that led to that, and that was predatory financing, 100% interest only. There was a ton of inventory out there, very little demand. So it was a different market back then. It's still a very strong market right now. And to get a lower interest rate, you could do that 5-year ARM. So it's fixed for 5 years. And then after that, it could adjust every 6 months, depending on where the market is in 5 years. But really what the goal is with these financing options is to refinance before that adjustment period ever happens. So the goal is during that 5-year period, when rates do drop, which they will, we do a refinance and get you into a very low rate for a 30-year fixed eventually. But right now, for instance, as I mentioned, conventional rates are in the high 6s. The 5-year ARM rates are in the mid 5s. So still, extremely competitive, nice. About 1.5% lower. So a lot of the people we work with, we give them those options and they're going for it because they do see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're being positive about where rates are eventually going to be, maybe in a year, maybe 2, and we'll have an opportunity to refinance you at a better deal.
2 questions about that. The first one is with the ARM, you can still have the seller contribute toward a buy down, right? So you can still buy your rate down even on top of having that lower rate with the ARM.
Yes, you can. Yes, we actually just yesterday I was working with a buyer who had seller concessions. As we mentioned, the market is in a place where you could actually get more seller concessions, and he used that to pay down the interest rate on a 5-year ARM to a 4.875%. So nice. There is opportunities in this market to get good rates and take advantage of the prices that we're having right now.
Nice. Second question. So let's just say you get past that 5-year, you don't refi, whatever, and you're in that 6-month adjustment period. Is there a cap on that? Like, can it only adjust a certain amount?
Yes. Yeah. So right after the 5-year period, it could only adjust 1%. And even every 6 months, it could only go up another 1%. And for the life of the loan, it can't go higher than 6% of what you locked in at. So, but those, we very rarely see those because we do the refinance typically, or right. Sometimes if rates are good, people kind of leave it adjustable and, they let it go because rates actually drop in the future. And the adjustment is a positive. So it just depends on where the market is. So, but it gives you a good amount of time to wait for rates to drop and kind of take that and see if you want to refinance or if you want to keep it going, just whatever you want to do. So it's a great way to save money the first 5 years of your mortgage.
So as a buyer, right now, if I were looking to buy, I have these financing opportunities that I can take advantage of, which we've explained last month. There was a different financing opportunity. We explained this month, there's a different one that our buyers have access to. We have the opportunity with demand being a bit lower right now to negotiate out there. We're seeing sellers negotiate not only on price, but they are contributing toward closing costs now, which was unheard of just a couple of months ago. Like, you would be embarrassed as a buyer's agent to ask any seller for any type of concession at all. And now you can do that. Now we're getting AC units replaced. We're getting roofs replaced. We're getting these things for our buyers now because the demand is a bit lower and we're able to do that. There's also more selection out there. So buyers aren't having to feel rushed. They're not having to feel like they need to just settle on something because they need to get out of their place or they're moving or job is starting or some other life event is forcing them into making a quick decision. So honestly, as a buyer right now, it seems like a pretty awesome place to be. There are, and I'm seeing it all over the place, and it actually makes me a little bit sad that there's such bad news out there, because I feel like read the fine print, guys, and really look into it and stop just clicking on headlines or stop just believing headlines, because there is some really great information out there from these resources that are highly trusted, that have been around for years and years, especially specifically here in our market. And I want to share something that I was really happy to see. This just recently came out from the Cromwell Report. If you guys aren't familiar with the Cromwell Report, this is something that we in the real estate industry have access to, specifically here in the Phoenix area. I'm not sure if Cromwell Report is in other areas. I really don't know. but it's been something that we have used for quite some time, and it's super reliable resource. How do you feel about that, Ryan?
It is, yeah. I've been listening to it for a very long time, and it's always been very accurate, and it's a must, I feel, for almost any real estate agent or lender. So yeah, that's my trusted source.
Yeah, totally agree. And I was happy to see this recently come out. And for those of you that are just listening to the audio version, I will read it. But the Cromwell Report specifically said, this is not a crash, okay? Louder for the people in the back. This is not a crash. The market has started operating like it does when overall supply and demand are in balance, which is just, I mean, kind of what we want. It was too crazy. Even though, sellers were able to sell their properties lickety split for $1 zillion, it was still very crazy even for them. It was still very overwhelming even for them. That was not sustainable, right?
It was not, yes.
And for poor buyers, I mean, I don't know how many times I literally held a sobbing buyer because it was such an emotional roller coaster for them.
Yeah. And it's such an interesting change now where a lot of our buyers, I'm getting them pre-approved. They're like, hey, we're going out looking at homes this weekend and we have a contract on Monday. They find the house they love and they're so excited about it and they get it accepted with concessions. They get it for the price they want. It's so different. And the past 2.5 years before this, I would talk to our buyers on Mondays and they'd just be devastated. They'd submit 5 offers and get them all rejected for cash offers. So it's even though the market is shifting and it's there's a lot of negative news out there. For us personally, we're talking to a lot of happy buyers that are finally getting their offers accepted.
Totally agree. Cromwell Report goes on to say there is a strong overtone of fear.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot of fear out there, but this fear is not based on anything more solid than uncertainty.
Yeah.
And people who want to make money because of clickbait. Sorry, I said it. You heard it here, folks. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, bad news sells, and we have to keep that in mind. Something else that I want to share. Can you see this graph, Ryan? I'm just kind of flipping through slides here on my end. So this just came out. This report is something that is offered to us through ARMLS, which is our local MLS system. They have all kinds of fun reports and graphs and things. And this is why we really felt the pain, guys. So look, between April and August, look at really April and July, let's say, look at that drastic move. And this is inventory. So these bars that we're looking at is inventory. For those of you who are just listening to the podcast here, I mean, gosh, look at March.
Yeah, wow.
March of 2022, and this is the MLS as a whole. So this is Phoenix Greater area, metro, and some like other sort of outer lying areas, just a little bit onesie twosies kind of outside of really our market. This is the MLS as a whole. And we were right about 7,500 listings, let's say, give or take, around March. Popped up to, where are we at? Probably about 25,000, 26,000 in July of 2022. Yeah. So a huge pop up in inventory. Inventory was coming onto the market fast and furious. What has now started happening is inventory is starting to trickle in now, is what I've noticed. Yes. So we're not seeing such drastic, it's more smaller moves is what the market's making right now. So we're not seeing such drastic accumulations. And we're starting to see more sales too. Actually, August brought us more sales. I think we were a bit surprised to see, brought us more sales than we had expected.
Yeah, and then what I'm seeing too from a lot of my past clients is even if they desired to maybe move into upgrade, they're kind of staying put right now, that they don't want to, take a 2.875 rate that they got with us a few years back and then jump into almost 7% right now. So I do think that's going to have an impact on inventory as well, where, there's people who do want to kind of stay put right now. So we might not be, that's why I think it's kind of trickling in right now.
I totally agree. I've had several conversations, back earlier at the beginning of the year with people that were like, well, hey, let's just toss our hat in the ring, see how much we can get. It was like gambling, you know what I mean? Like they were getting really excited about it. And now, and those were people who didn't really have to sell, but you gave them your, if they got their price, well then heck, they would certainly move on to the next chapter. We're not seeing that so much anymore. You're exactly right. I'm having a lot of conversations with people. Yeah, I'm a real estate agent. I sell real estate for a living, but I'm having a lot of conversations with people about sticking it out and staying in their homes right now. Just see what happens, and keep that, like you said, 2.5-3% rate, because that's just crazy to me.
Yeah, yep. And kind of piggybacking on what you're saying here with, a lot of the negative news that's out there, Zillow actually came out with their projections on where they feel home appreciation will be for the next 12 months, even given the fact, through the end of the year, with rates being a little bit higher, they still feel that that the appreciation is going to be 1.2%. Now, listen, that's not a lot, but the key is it's positive. It's still not a negative, So they're still expecting the next 12 months to see home price appreciation. And Redfin also came out, and this was making pretty big headlines, is that they said 24% of the listing out there are getting price reductions. So that was one of those big headlines that a lot of people had fear, like, oh, price drops, the market's crashing. But what's interesting is in 2019, 20% of listings actually had price drops. And 2019 was a pretty normal market before the pandemic, and things got a little crazy. So it's kind of interesting, it's still pretty average and pretty, near the normal when it comes to price reductions.
Yeah, I totally agree. And 2019 was a great year in real estate. I mean,
it was, yes.
We had a great year that year. We had a lot of buyers and sellers that did very, very well with their transactions. And it's funny that you should say that, Ryan, because look at my next slide. So this again comes from ARMLS. This just recently came out over the last, week or two. We get these reports once a month from our ARMLS, from ARMLS reports and whatnot. And it said last month, the stat is the ARMLS reports, what it's called. Yeah. Stats mathematical model projected the median sales price for August at $444,900. The actual number was $445,000. So they were just a teensy bit off there. Looking ahead to September, the ARMLS pending price index is projecting a median sales price of $440,000. So we got a little bit of a drop. If September's median sales price projection is correct, we will see a month-over-month decline of 1.1%. So not a ton, leaving the median sales price up. So we're still up 7.32% year over year.
Wow.
But we're down from where we were at in May, which is probably our record high.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, Zillow's forecast, I know Zillow, everybody kind of knows that you can't really trust what you see on their website, but historically, when it comes to their forecast, that they've been pretty accurate, and nationally they feel it's 1%. So, sure, we might be going through a few months of drops like you just reported there, Katie, but, maybe early quarter next year when rates start improving, second quarter, summertime, we might really start seeing things heat up again. And that's why our average is still going to be, positive based off of everybody's expectations.
Totally agree. And lastly, one very, very positive thing that a lot of our homeowners have right now that, didn't exist way back in the crash in the early 2000s is we've got equity. We are sitting on massive equity. And so for us to fall to a level where we're starting to see massive foreclosures and short sales and lots of distress in the market, I think we've got a long way to go.
Very long way to go. Yes, I think they were reporting that on average, people have about 40% equity in their home. So they're sitting on a lot. These aren't people who are going to just walk away from their homes. And that was one of the big issues that we had in 2006, 7, and 8, is that, there was very little equity. So when the market turned, people were upside down. And we're not going to see that happen.
Absolutely. I agree with you totally. So people, make sure, don't let these headlines out there paralyze you. Talk to your trusted professional. You don't have a trusted professional that's been in the business for a zillion years like Ryan and I. We just don't age. We just don't have wrinkles. But we should. We cover our grays. You know what I mean?
It's good lighting too, Yeah.
Exactly. We have the good lighting, the Botox, all the stuff. But anyway, if you don't have somebody that's been a trusted professional that you're close with, that you've known for years, that can walk the walk and talk the talk, then our door is always open. You can always reach out to Ryan. His contact information is in the show notes. You can always reach out to Matt and I. Again, on social media, we are at Team EvoAZ. Just send us a message and let us know what your question is. If you want to connect, if you want some advice, or if you want us to read your question here live. Well, I guess we're not really live, but read your question on the show. We'd be happy to do that and answer it. Also, while you're at it, if you could subscribe, download, and rate us so that we can get this real info out to the real people who need to see it. We'd appreciate that. All right, Ryan, it's been real. See what I did right there?
This has been fun. This was great. Thank you again, Katie. Thank you, Matt and Spirit. And thank you for everybody for listening.
Awesome. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.